Hi there, this is Tammy with Tammy's Stamping Therapy. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for coming back. This is chapter 2 of my Stamping 101 series for Newbie Saturday videos. Last week I came on and I showed you how you need 3 things to make cards. You need stamps, ink, and paper or cardstock. And I made this card. This is one of the cards that I made. And then I showed you how to step it up a little bit by making this one where I cut out, fussy cut another butterfly and then added some rhinestones on there. This week I'm going to take it another step further. First, let me start by saying, as I did last week, these are all just my opinions, my experience, and I can't speak to anyone else's experience. When it comes to crafting, everybody has their own way of doing things, and this is just my way of doing things. I also would like to say, last week I said, if you remember, I said at the very beginning, I'm starting with the stamping, but there's other things I would tell you before I ever put a stamp in your hand. Really, there's not. I was thinking about that based on a comment somebody left on the previous video. And when people come to my in-person classes, which I'm not currently doing, but I want to get stamps in their hand. I want to show them that they really can create these things, because most people walk into a card class thinking, there's no way I can do that. Especially the cards that I do, these aren't cards I ever do in a class. They're usually a lot more elaborate than this. And they'll look at those cards and think, wow, there's no way I could ever do that. So I want to get it all in their hands and sit down with them and show them how to do it and how easy it all is. It's all very easy. There's tons of tools. There's different stamping levels, but also there's different spending levels. So you can have all the dies in embossing folders and everything, or you can have just a little bit and you can still make really pretty cards. So actually what I said last week was not true. The first thing I do is sit somebody down and get a stamp in their hand. So this week we're going to talk about card bases and layers. And then we're going to build on what I did with this card. Card bases, I'm not going to speak to metric or UK because I don't make them in that size. And there's lots of other people out there doing videos that can tell you that part. This card that I showed you last week is a note card. It's 3.5 by 5. I'm pretty sure it's the smallest thing you can put in an envelope and send through the postal service. Anything smaller, they won't let you do. So that is a note card. Stampin' Up! Sells note cards and envelopes together, which makes it very easy. If you go to anything else, you probably have to get a paper cutter, and there's other things you have to do. But if you buy cards and envelopes, card bases and envelopes already cut, then you don't have to. So that was just a little rambling. Anyway, sorry. So card bases. I didn't clean this mess up very well before I started. So sorry. I might be a little bit disorganized. For me, a standard card base, it's called A2 and it's 5.5 by 4.25. It is taking, I'll show you how I do it. It is taking one sheet of cardstock, which is 8.5 by 11, and making it into 2 cards, 2 card bases. So most of my cards, I do tent fold cards. So the very first thing is I go to 5.5, and this wonderful tool has a scoring blade in it, and I'm going to score this. I also could have done it with my bone folder, or I could have done it with my scoring board. And then I'm going to cut this at 4.25. Just changed my blade and it cuts like butter. That was really weird. So then I have this score line, and I'm going to fold into the mountain. Already lost my bone folder. I spent like 3 hours cleaning up this morning, so I actually had a desktop before I started crafting. And then I planned what I was going to do for this video, and now my desktop is all a mess. So this is 4.25 by 5.5. This is a half a sheet of cardstock. This is my standard card base. Some people make 4.5 by 6, which I think is an A6 card. Some people make 5.5 by 7. Some people make 5.5 by 8. So it just depends on what you want to do and what size envelopes you have. When we used to have Paper Zone in our city, I bought my envelopes from them, and I had to know to buy the envelopes that these are A2 cards. To buy these envelopes for the little note cards, I had to know that this was a 4-bar, is what it was called. Now I buy all my envelopes from Stampin' Up, so I don't have to worry about that. So, card bases. For me, 5.5 by 4.25. This one is folded on the side. This is what I would call a side fold card. This one is folded on the top. I should have done these in color because white's kind of hard to see. But so it's a tent fold card. I really like the way these look the best, so I do these now way more often than I do these. My tastes have changed. I used to only do this kind. And both cards you can stand up this way or this way. The other size card that I'm not going to really show any samples of today, except for the base, if I can find it, is 3 by 3. The card is 3 by 3. The envelopes are 3 1/8 inch square. And you cannot mail these, but they're nice little gift cards to put with a gift, or just to drop on somebody's desk if you need to thank them for something. Now let's go into layers a little bit. I feel like I had something else I was going to say. Oh, if you want to make a 4 by 4 card, I don't make square cards. My brain doesn't work that way. But you can make a 4 by 4 card, and square cards cost more to mail for some reason. I don't know why. But you can put a 4 by 4 card into an envelope that's made for a 5.5 by 4.25. And then that'll save you on postage. 6 by 6 is big. I have no idea how much it costs to mail. So, card. A card base, 5.5 by 4.25. When people are layering their cards, they usually go down 1/4 inch, which gives you an 1/8 inch border. So the first layer down would be 5.25 by 4, and you can see this gives you an 1/8 inch border all the way around. The next one down would be 5 by 3 3/4. I just know these in my head. I don't have to have anything written down. Some people have visual aids that they keep handy so that they know what they need to do. 4 3/4 by 3.5. This would be a really pretty card. 4.5 by 3.25. And I think that's as small as I went. I would never go smaller than this unless I was doing a pyramid card. Then you would just keep going down 1/4 inch till you got to the middle. That would be a cool looking card. So I did this in black and white so you can see how each time it's 1/4 inch. But there's other things that you can do. My favorite way to layer is to take my 5.5 by 4.25 inch card and use the 5 by 3 3/4. I really like the way this looks. And then I will layer another piece on there, which this isn't going to work very well because it's black, but then and you'll see on the card I'm going to show you, I'll layer another piece on there that's the 1/4 inch down, and it looks pretty cool. So the card I'm going to show you is going to look like that. So that's the thing about layers. The insides of my cards, you'll see that with the card I'm going to make also. I still do the 5 by 3 3/4, and then I layer a 4 3/4 by 3.5 on top of it. What else can I say about layers? I rarely make a card without layers. And there's different kinds of layers. There's just layering it up like this. Wherever it went. I got all my stuff out of order. Like this. Sorry. So I'm just layering it up like this. And I almost always do this. Only I do it with the 5 I do it with this size instead of that size. Excuse me. And then a lot of times you're layering something else too, and your focal point is its own layered piece that's added to the top. We're not doing that today. I want to stay very basic again. So then let me show you what I did. How I took this card and made it into a regular size card that has layers. I'm starting with a card base. I'm going to layer this on here. So this is 5 by 4 1/4. There's my adhesive. There's my adhesive. Just got these new adhesives from Stampin' Up, and I think I really like this. The jury's still out. But. So I'm going to center this on here. I'm going to center this in the middle. So that's why the jury's still out. It does weird things sometimes. I could be pushing too hard too. I'm not sure. So there's my card base with my first layer. When I start stamping, I put paper underneath because I'm going to stamp off. So I need Granny Apple Green. And if you remember from last week when we stamp, firm, even pressure with no rocking. Hold it for a few seconds so that the ink is absorbed. I'm going to do the inside too. I like to stamp on the insides of my cards. And this is probably all I'll do, and the inside is just this one stamp. So then I'll put this away. I've already stamped my Created by Tammy on the back. And then I'm going to do the same. I'm making the same thing I did last time, but it's going to look different. Just stuck my thumb in the ink pad. I do that quite often. Try not to get my head in the camera. Sorry, what's going on with my voice? I need to get a drink. Oh, and I splashed water on there. That was good. Silly me. Now I'm going to stamp my butterfly. This is Granny Apple Green and Highland Heather. So I'm going to stamp them on there. Yes, I had one I made that I was supposed to be looking at. Duh. I made a sample and to make it easier for myself. Okay, now I can attach this to the front of my card because I'm not going to do any more stamping. Some people put all their layers on and then they stamp. And what if I make a mistake? So I don't do that. I don't glue anything down until I'm done stamping on it. Also, if you can see, when I cut these papers, I needed to replace my blade and my trimmer. I have since replaced it, but the way to fix that is to take one of these, which is a nail, for your nails, a square block. They cost almost nothing at Sally Beauty or Walmart, and I'm just gonna take off those fuzzies because I don't like the fuzzies. I think the fuzzies make it look not as nice. Whatever the right way to say that would have been. And then I'm going to attach this. See, not sure about this runner yet. It's acting wonky. It's probably operator error. It's a new kind of tape runner. So, I'm going to get out the other one. That was the Stamp and Seal Plus, and this is just the Stamp and Seal, which means it's just not as not as sticky. Make sure I have this the right way on my card. I've put them together upside down before. So here's so far. Where's my original? See, so far it already makes a big difference, I think. Takes this to a new level. And then I'm going to cut out my little butterfly. I'm going to fussy cut my little butterfly. As I said last week, when it comes to terminology, years ago this was just called cutting out. Now it has a fancy term. If you hear a weird noise in the background, my husband's out in the garage doing something with his grinder, his metal grinder. So I'm not sure what he's making out there. But if you can hear that noise, I hear it. It's pretty loud. That's what it is. The thing about cutting, it's really easy. These butterflies are really easy to cut. You hold your scissors still and you move the paper. And it just makes it easier. It's easier on your hands. The whole process is easier overall. So that was quick and easy to cut out. And then I'm going to do one more addition. Again, I have a huge mess here. Okay, my mini dimensionals. This one I just glued down. So when the person receives it after it's been in the mail, it's going to be flat. Unless they do that, it's going to be flat. I'm going to take my mini dimensionals and put one on each side of the butterfly. I am going to put glue in the middle. Take off the backs. And then I'm going to put this on there. Hopefully line it up correctly. I don't want to get my head in the camera. So once that glue dries, as you can see, those wings, that's what they're called. Those wings will never go all the way down flat. And then I'm going to put my rhinestones in the middle. This is a paper piercing tool. I use it for rhinestones all the time. You notice mine is not straight. It is not a prying tool. I used it to try to open a bottle of glitter that I got from Hobby Lobby. And it was one of those with a shaker top that you turn. And I thought, well, I'm just going to poke that thing down inside. So I'm pushing and pushing and prying. Bent my paper piercer. And then realized there's a cardboard insert I should have taken out first. So I have another one, I just haven't gotten it out. This one still works, and it's like a little lesson to me every time I pull it out and use it. It's just funny. So I use my paper piercer to pick up my rhinestones. And then I use the tip to squish them down a little bit, because rhinestones have a tendency to slide. They can have a tendency to slide, I should say. And I have found that if I do this, it really pushes the glue down in, and they stay better. They stay in place better. So there's that part. And so this is what we did last week, only I have added layers and made it what I call a regular size card, an A2 card. I'm going to do one more thing to fancy it up. I'm going to add a bow. I rarely make cards that don't have ribbon or bow in some sort. So that's what I'm going to do. And I attach my bows with glue dots. I usually put 2 on there just because I feel like it makes it stick better. And I'm going to put that bow right here. And then I'm going to trim my ribbon. So there we go. There you have it. We went from this. We went from this and this last week. Get my thumb out of the way. To this week. I think it adds a lot to the card to add color. The one I made for my sample, I used Granny Apple Green for the layer. When I first started stamping, my card bases were always colored, which meant I used a lot more colored cardstock because I would make my base colored and then I would find a color to layer on it. And because I'm a clean and simple crafter, I think this is my logic. I like the way my cards look when they have white bases. No matter what card it is, I just like the way it looks. So I will occasionally make a card that doesn't have a white base, but I don't do it very often. And I will not very often make a card that is a tint fold in the landscape. Usually mine are a tint fold in the other way. So one thing that I do when I buy my cardstock, I always have a whole pack of white cardstock that's already cut into bases. I score it and cut it. I have a big paper cutter that I can cut like half a pack at a time. And then I also always take a whole paper pack and cut this size layer because I use this size layer on almost every card, inside and outside. So I have a whole stack of white that is this size layer, and I have a whole stack of card bases that is top fold. Well, this is top fold too. Anyway, you know what I mean. And it's just something that saves time. I have all this stuff at my fingertips, and it saves me time. So that is my video for today. This is chapter 2. Let me know what you think. And also, if there is anything you would like to learn that you don't know if I'll be teaching it, please leave a comment below. And if you have any suggestions for things you would like to see, or just something you'd like to learn, leave a comment below and I can add it to my list. It might already be on my list. I do have a long list of different things to show. As far as stamping goes, I also have a long list of different kinds of videos I want to make, but they all take time and I have limited time. So I'm starting with these beginner videos. Last week, Sandy Desai made a comment and then sent me an email, and she had some very good suggestions for things that I could add. So I always welcome input from others. I want to do what you want to learn. I could just sit here and stamp all day, but I want to do what you want to learn. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say for that one. So that's my Stamping 101 Chapter 2 video. And I'll see you next time. I hope you all have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for watching.